Welcome to Selling in the Age of AI.
Yeah, this is good stuff. So,
Must-listen podcast for sales professionals who lean into technology without leaning on it. Dive into the future of sales with your host, the dynamic and inspiring Frank Somma, renowned keynote speaker, best-selling author, seminar leader, and business coach. Get ready for game-changing insights and strategies that value technology but place humanity at the top of the sales pyramid.
Benvenuti a tutti. Welcome everyone to Selling in the Age of AI. I am Frank Somma, and my guest today is the inimitable Dayna Karron. Dayna helps businesses simplify their printing, copying, and document management needs with smart, cost-effective technology solutions. She brings resilience, creativity, and a lot of heart to everything she does. Known as the queen of networking, Dayna is all about building relationships, solving problems, and supporting her clients from tech solutions to fundraising efforts. And of course, she's a proud Penn State mom. I'd known Dayna by reputation only 30 years ago. She was widely regarded as the best in a business we were both working hard in. But I got to know her even better when she graciously attended my premier fundraising event for Cooley's Anemia Foundation. And in a room of over 400 people, Dayna made sure to connect empathetically with my wife and me. I've always held Dayna in high esteem because she is the best at what she does and takes that talent out to various charities to make the world a better place. Welcome, Dayna. I'm so glad to have you here.
Starting my morning already in tears. Thank you, Frank, for that lovely introduction. It takes a lot for me to cry this early in the morning. It's usually in the afternoon after a copier has jams or something like that. But in all seriousness, that was a beautiful introduction. And you are truly a special human being. And I remember from the first day we met, it was always just you caring so much, and your wife, Deborah, and your whole family. Now you talk about your grandsons and teaching them Italian, I believe.
I do, yeah.
And I'm blessed to know you.
Thank you. You know, you were asking before we began about why this podcast, and you are the perfect guest for this podcast. I mean, you're the definition of it, because I think what's happening now is salespeople are leaning on technology instead of leaning into it. And I see it with some of the young folks that I coach, that they believe the tech can do the job for them. And while you are technically savvy, I mean, for God's sake, you sell IT solutions, you know the tech, but you emphasize relationships and personal connection and heart. Talk about how your business works and why that works for you.
So before I do that, I want to point out for everyone watching this, if they see me looking down, I'm hard of hearing and I'm reading the closed captioning. So I would never want anyone to think that I'm distracted, being disrespectful, not paying attention. So I do want to point out that I am reading the closed captioning, because of my hearing loss. So the question that you had asked was, how do you build relationships, right? So the first thing is, you always need to ask the person, how can I help you? Whether it's a fundraising committee where I've raised millions and millions of dollars over the year, and I've presented to the team, I've presented to the board of directors, C-level, how to leverage their relationships to take a vendor to become a partner. Because if someone is just offering phenomenal support in the services they provide, they're a vendor. But if they are involved, whether on the fundraising committee, helping with the silent auction, giving ideas, making introductions from one nonprofit to another so they can brainstorm and they could really all elevate their game, that's one way of building relationships. The other way I always say is, if you're not networking, you're not working. When you're sitting down with someone, you say to them before the meeting, go through my LinkedIn connections. Now mine are blocked and we can only see mutual connections in mine, but go through those mutual connections. Pick a whole bunch that you'd like to reconnect with. Or explain to me why those are good introductions for you, whether it's the industry, the company's size, the title of the person. And I will make those introductions for you if I feel it's the right fit. The other way, of course, of building relationships is asking your clients, what are your challenges? Now, it doesn't have to be in the technology challenges that I help to overcome. It could be someone like you who's doing sales coaching for teams and they're struggling with their team, whether it's with morale, whether it's with their numbers, whether it's with people just not being passionate, whatever it is, right? So I'm always asking first, how can I help you? That's the most important thing about building relationships, in my opinion.
You know, you touched on something when you were talking about, there's two points I want to remember. One is going from a vendor to a partner, and then coaching some of those nonprofits to create more partners from their vendors. So
Oh,
what's
yeah.
interesting to me is that you're taking it up another level. Like a lot of people think, well, if I do these favors for a nonprofit and I give them really good pricing because they're a .org, I've done my job. But that's not it for you. You go 10 steps further.
Exactly. And like you say, a lot of these nonprofits find partners. Well, I bring my trusted advisors. When I get a table for 10 people, I bring my trusted advisors to raise their paddle and make a donation, to bid on a silent auction. And then I introduce them to the person. So let's use someone like Ralph Marucci, the greatest thing that ever happened to water. And he owns a company called Hydrate. So I brought him to one of my nonprofit clients. He made a significant donation. He's a sponsor for this year's, and he will hopefully get their business. It's not guaranteed, but it's hopefully going to happen, not because of the support only, but because his product is a standout product that will help my nonprofits to be healthier.
Right. Right. It's about bringing the quality. So an interesting thing, one of the things that we do on this podcast is we always ask people, what are they doing for charity work? Because if you've got the skills, and I'll say this way, the God-given skills, whether you believe it's the universe, it's whatever religious overtone you want to place on it, but you've got these skills that allow you to connect well with people. And if you're using those skills only to make money, I say shame on you. Superman could have busted through bank walls and robbed them, but he didn't. He used his power for good. And that's what I expect out of great communicators and great salespeople. You've taken that up a level, but the point I want to make about the guy you're talking about, Marucci, is you don't go into it thinking I'm going to get business here. You go into it thinking I'm going to help these folks. And then what winds up happening is you get business. Maybe it's oblique, but it comes around.
It always does. And I believe, especially growing up in Brooklyn and having, if people know my story, I had a very, very troubled childhood, a very troubled childhood. I didn't have a mentor. Without this becoming a therapy session, I really didn't have someone that led me into a positive direction. Right. And I always said, what would have been different about my childhood if I would have had someone that wanted to make a difference, if I would have had someone that taught me what true success is. True success is paying it forward. True success is not just about having that boat and having that second or third home and having that private plane. The president of my company gives so much. National Kidney Foundation, I don't want to say it's expected because he doesn't expect us, but we all as a huge team go out there and make a difference. There are so many nonprofits that our company gives to on a regular basis. 30 years I'm there, I could never work for someone who only believed in all these material things as success. That's not the way he runs, and you know him for how many years. He is the reason that I was at your daughter's fundraiser. I would have never been there if he didn't bring a whole group of us to see how important it is to make a difference in the community. And especially now, the world's upside down, in my opinion. so upside down. You have situations with government funding, and it's scary. It's really scary. And yesterday I had a meeting with a potential client that I was referred to by another nonprofit, asking them what's going on. They're petrified. So right now I'm on 3 fundraising committees. I'm waiting for my purple straitjacket because 2 of the galas are within 3 weeks of each other.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's interesting. And I mean, to get this in perspective for those folks that are listening, Dayna is a salesperson in the technology space, right? Copiers, printers, IT, that kind of thing. And I know personally that her book of business each year is more than several of the small companies that
Don't do this.
in that space. And I say that not just to applaud you and say how wildly successful you are, that you write all of this business, but to say that there's still time for you to be on 3 fundraising committees. What, do you have a different clock than we have? What's going on?
So I appreciate that. Many of my clients will let you know that they get emails from me at 3:30, 4:30, 5:30 is like the afternoon for me. I have to work with nonprofits that give me the organization skills to be successful for their fundraiser. Now I'm giving away my secret sauce, but I'm okay with that because no one will ever replicate what I do. What I do, Frank, and you're going to fall off your chair, is I ask my client for an Excel spreadsheet or potential client for an Excel spreadsheet. They need to let me know every person that they write a check to over the last 24 months. They need to let me know what the spend is. So what did you spend on furniture? What did you spend on office supplies? What did you spend on technology? What did you spend on water? You got it, right? So I call each one individually. Then I follow up with an email, and then I do what we call in the office and my fundraising, Dayna-size them. We actually have a word for my behavior. It's called Dayna-sizing. And you don't want to get Dayna-sized. That means you did not get back to me. And I am going to be relentless until I get a donation. On my 4th attempt, you are now on an email with the decision maker of the nonprofit. I'm sorry that you have not gotten back to me and that you have not had the opportunity to make an impact for this incredible golf outing gala. Maybe it went to spam. We need a response. And I've raised millions, but if I don't have a spreadsheet and they are telling me to cold call and call up and find out the contact in the email, not happening.
No.
Not happening. So it has to be organized and it has to be set up for success or I'm out. I'm out.
Value added. So, oh my goodness. You've given so much. No, really, you're giving so much more than you're getting in that environment. And that's beautiful. I mean, what a wonderful symbiotic relationship. I love that.
And then of course, I do all my networking.
Sorry.
It's okay.
My crazy cuckoo clock.
Do you need to go? Okay. So then, of course, I have all my networking, which if I had to go in order, obviously it's my daughter, the proud Penn State mom, and she just graduated. Then it's my fundraising. Then it's my networking. We're talking outside of work, which obviously is a 33-year career, which I love helping my clients. But if we're talking outside of work, but yet I've been blessed where I can incorporate all of it, right? The networking I love doing. But what's interesting, and the CEO of Jewish National Fund, Russell Robinson, who's one of my favorite human beings in the world, we've talked about how I look at asking for help as a sign of weakness, which I'm working on. And hopefully before I get into my 60s, which is only a few years from now, I will have conquered that. But with my networking, I'm constantly on a first meeting. Hi, who are you? How can I help you? Who are you looking to meet? And making tons of introductions on my phone right there and then before I even leave Today I have a networking meeting in New Jersey, in Sophia's of Englewood, and I'm just bringing people together that don't know each other or reconnecting them and saying, how can you all help each other? So it is hard to balance, to answer your questions, but I start really, really early. And I have the most phenomenal assistant in the world.
That's important to have good help. Do I remember right that you had a group of people that together shared contacts? Like my recollection, I'm going back years ago, was that let's say there were 3 or 4 of you that are salespeople, and when each one of you broke into an account, you brought the other folks with you. Was that part of what you were doing? Do I remember that right?
Yeah. What I do is I ask them to come prepared with clients they are looking to meet. Not just like, I want a law firm with 50 to 200 employees and I want to meet the director of IT. No, 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 no. I want to know specifically what charter school, specifically what law firm, specifically who is the decision maker and what have you done so far to get a meeting. And then we go around and we look at the list and you bring enough copies for everyone. See how I said copies?
Yes.
And you bring enough of course, it has to be printed on my machines. Otherwise, So we go around and we look at the list and then we say, I know this one. I know this one. Then if we don't, then we go through LinkedIn and we say, well, this person's connected to this one. And even though I don't know that one, I know that one. And I can ask that person to make an introduction.
So here you are, literally the most successful salesperson in your industry. And what you're telling me is that people to people is where the rubber meets the road. That here we are with somebody who is wildly successful. And we're going to get into what tech supports you. But in the meantime, what you're saying to me is that the essence of your business is your relationships with people and deepening those relationships.
But I'm going to correct you, as you know my personality. I despise the word salesperson.
Okay.
So I have branded myself as the solutionist. A salesperson is a one-way street. You have one goal. You are trying to sell something. You are not trying to solve something. And that is why I branded myself as the solutionist, because you should not be trying to sell something. It's not about you at all. It's about the other person, building the relationship. How can I help you? What can I solve for you?
Right.
So don't ever refer to me as a salesperson again, because I'll leave the meeting. No, I'm kidding.
No, as a solutionist, I get that, and I like the twist on that, because you're right. When you walk into something and your goal is only to line your own pocket, right, to make the sale, as opposed to if you go in wide open. And I think it was your boss that told me this a long time ago. He said that the mark of being great in business is knowing when you're not a fit and understanding that this is not a place for you. And you can't do that unless you've got a big enough, I think you've got to have a big enough pipeline, right? You must have done the work. If you do the work, you've got enough folks that you're talking to. And when that happens, you can say, I'm not right for you. I know somebody who is in some other ancillary business, maybe my furniture person is, but I'm not right for you right now. And having the confidence to walk away, that's being a solutionist, and that's really hard to do.
So it's interesting you say that. I have a client that recently moved forward with an $18,000 document management solution. I have another client that just moved forward with a printer that I made $1.36 in commission. And people say to me, you're doing this 33 years. Why are you spending your time on that? Whoa, who am I to decide? Now, I've walked away from massive, massive opportunities. I was once referred into a huge opportunity. And I said, what technology challenges are we trying to solve? They couldn't answer me. What has worked in the past? They couldn't answer me. What hasn't worked in the past? Can't answer me. If you had a magic wand and you went like this, what would it look like? Couldn't answer me. And I said, I'm walking. You're walking. I said, here we go. The opportunity, my reputation. Which do you think is more valuable to me? And they couldn't believe it. No one else in my industry, they must have spoken to every single company. I said, lose my invitation to the party. I didn't say that, but I thought that. I am not risking my reputation because guess what? It's not going to work. That person's not going to be there for long because if they're making mistakes in my area, they're making mistakes in my area, lots of areas. And then the new person is going to come in. Who do you think is going to be blamed?
You got that right.
Me. Not happening.
You got that right. But you know what? And as you walked out, it probably made them want you more.
So, question for you. You transitioned for a while out of the industry, doing all these incredible speaking engagements, and now you recently told me that you're doing coaching.
Yes.
You're a very passionate person, and you would never do anything you're not passionate about. And I always say, make your passion your purpose, make your passion your paycheck. So, not that I'm interviewing you, but I'm really excited to hear about what's going on with you.
Well, you know, the coaching is super important to me. I coach groups, you know, teams, and then some individuals. And what I find is that people, A, need a confidential sounding board. B, they need to get outside of their own head. And they need somebody to tell them plainly. And it works for me because I tend to work in an organized fashion like you, and I work on a plan. So when I'm coaching people or teams, it's kind of easy in that I have a broad base of experience, and I'll say, okay, the meeting's coming up, fill out this form before you come to the meeting, and it's, tell me about, you know, 3 things that went well for you, give me 3 wins, tell me when you get stuck, what stops you, tell me, and there's 3 or 4 questions, and that's it, and that form becomes the agenda for the meeting. So if I'm meeting you once a week, every 2 weeks, once a month, whatever it is, we're talking about what matters to you, and I'm trying to be your sounding board, but really the solutions are mostly coming from you. I'm drawing it out of you because, you know, it's hard to tell someone what to do. They often don't do what they're told to do, but if you can walk it down with them and let them decide what they want to do differently and then hold them accountable, it tends to work. So that's my go-to when I do this.
I think too many times when you're coaching someone, they have too much ego involved, right? They think that they know it all. So that's one thing that I always want to every day learn, evolve, grow. And my husband always says to me, you have coaches for everything.
Yeah.
And I want to have coaches. I feel that, like you said, I want to brainstorm. I want to have ideas. I want someone to draw it out of me, right? So like I've been working out forever, but I have a trainer. Why? I want to elevate my game. I want someone to hold me accountable. I want someone to come up with new ideas. I want to pivot and learn, right? Yeah. And so I think it's so great what you said, that you're putting together this form because it's organized. There's an agenda. It's consistent. There's no surprises. I've had coaches that I'm thinking to myself, I could be coaching now. Like they came and I'm like, what do you want to talk about? I'm paying you X amount of dollars to be here. What are you asking me what I want to talk about?
That's funny. You know, it's the other part of it, I think, is that when I have a person now that's the CEO of a pretty big company, and I'm a safe space for him. He gets to say whatever he wants to say about his second in command, whatever he wants to say about the folks that work for him. He's got a silent partner, so on and so forth. But once he says it all, then we can filter it and get the essence of what's bothering him. But you don't always get to say things out loud in business, right? You know, when you're the top person, you've got to be careful because what you say resonates more loudly than what someone else says. And that's a tough thing to learn as a leader, I think. But many people in leadership position don't realize that you're no longer entitled to make offhanded remarks like everybody else because they reverberate through the business. Whereas if somebody else said the same thing, it would be forgotten in a second. So that's kind of part of it too, is to be a good sounding board for people that don't have somebody else.
That's great. I'm so happy to hear all the things that you're involved in and that you're able to take different pieces and really just have it all come together to come back to what you love, right? Which is helping people, teaching people, watching people grow. So it's amazing how with your speaking and with the coaching and it's just amazing to hear all these exciting things, especially knowing each other for 30 years,
Right.
how everything has evolved for you.
I know. It's been great. Now on the talking about the podcast and technology, what are you finding now? How is AI changing the game for people in your industry? What kinds of things is it doing differently, better, not doing? People believe, they shouldn't believe. What's your opinions here?
So did you hear about the recent acquisition that Atlantic Tomorrow's office did a few months ago?
No.
Unbelievable. So they now see where the whole world is going, AI, right? And they did an acquisition. Company is known as Brain Cell. It's a division of Atlantic Tomorrow's office. And with everything changing, I mean, you remember when we had fax machines that looked like it was toilet paper on a roll, thermal faxes.
Oh, yeah.
Now I get laughed at if I even ask for a fax option, although many of my clients still need them. We do, a lot with fax solutions that people just laugh at. But the point is, with AI, this company will help companies to implement AI into their business. So they work with CRMs, ERP, and if you look them up, BrainCell is just another way that Atlantic Tomorrow's office has evolved. So a few months ago, I started saying, oh my gosh, I'm 57 years old. The whole world is changing. What am I going to do? Blah, blah, blah. Literally, Chat and I are BFFs. Like every single day, will have conversations and say, I'm having a meeting with, how can I help them? What solutions can I provide? What conversations, what struggles are they having? What's going on in their industry? I am so prepared in a way that I wasn't in the past. So instead of taking this fear, and what is fear? False evidence appearing real. That's what fear is. I started, oh my gosh, I'm
going to be left behind.
I can't do this. I don't like change. And I was like really having a hard time. And I was like, no. Look a challenge in the eye and wink at it. And I said, I'm going to conquer this. And I'm really loving it. But I remember when a few months ago you asked me to be on here and I'm like, Frank, I'm not talking about AI. Right. I'm like, I call it like A1 sauce. I'm like, I am not talking about AI. And now here I am just really enjoying it.
Digging in.
Really enjoying it. And how are you using it?
It's interesting because I love what you're saying. And I'm interviewing a guy named Doug Brown. He worked with Chet Holmes for a while, who's a part of Tony Robbins' network now, and Doug is telling me like some of the developments in AI that are mind-blowing to me. So one thing I want to tell you to do, which I did recently, is going to be in my blog next week. I went on ChatGPT and I said, why should I hire Frank Somma to coach me? And then I went on and said, why should I hire Frank Somma as a speaker for my sales team? And then I went on, why should I hire Frank Somma to coach my sales team? And I got to tell you, ChatGPT speaks a lot nicer about me than I ever would. It was very, very nice.
Frank, I just did that, and I'm sure it was one of my LinkedIn posts. Who is Dayna Karron? And so, literally, it's been amazing for me. Yeah. But you and I are both very authentic, and I've watched people just literally copy and paste, and it doesn't speak from the heart sometimes. So I'm careful, but I'm going to tell you a funny story. Like I said, I started at 3:30 in the morning. This is really embarrassing.
Wow.
It was a message. No, it was an email that I did with chat. That was for prospecting private schools in New York. And it said, "Dear client." The name didn't go in.
Oh my God.
56 people in an email went out that said, "Dear client," without their name. So I'm like, I don't think I'm going to do this at 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the morning before my workout anymore. Or I might want to proofread. Frank went to 56 people.
Oh my God. Did you have fun with it? And did you send a subsequent email to make fun of yourself?
Of course I did.
Yeah, so it probably paid better.
No, what I did was I said, "You're not a client yet, but maybe one day I can say,
There you
dear
go.
client."
Of course you'll turn it around. That's funny. Take every opportunity. You know, my coach is the one that told me to go on to ChatGPT and ask, why would I hire Frank Somma? So here we go with coaches adding value. But one of the things I want to tell you about is this guy Doug was saying to me that there are now, and one of my clients, I've got a client out in Michigan who's beginning to dig into this. You can get a learning model, right? So you can get a company that's got a learning model that goes in, and I think about how busy you are and you have a great assistant, but it goes into your email and learns you and the way that you respond to things. And then anything that's in your email more than X amount of time, it responds automatically for you in your voice because it has learned you. So a company, let's say, that gets a ton of inquiries in from outside, right? And most of them are garbage, but they have this big dump company email box.
Right.
It can go through that email and parse out what matters to them and then give leads to their salespeople. Now, I don't want it in my email because I can manage my own inbox. But if you have something like that coming in with hundreds or thousands a day, what a valuable tool that could be.
It sounds really cool, but it's not something that, like I said, you and I are so authentic. I'm getting nervous, like losing my voice. And I know you said that it sounds like you, but like yesterday, a client's asking me for their usage report for the last year. I'm not going to respond to that with an AI generated. I don't know. I need to get more comfortable, but I don't want to lose who I am because I have such a
You know what, though? There'll be a
personality.
time, but Dayna, there'll be a time when that artificial intelligence can grab that report for you in 10 seconds.
Oh, I know.
And bring it back faster than the way you're doing it now through your ERP or through your service software or whatever.
But you should definitely look into Brain Cell and see how we might be able to help your clients, because if you're not coming up with AI solutions, and like I mentioned, this acquisition has put us in a completely different way of helping our clients and talking about what's relevant, but you should definitely look up Brain Cell. Yesterday, we had an amazing meeting with their team, and tomorrow we have what's known as Workout Wednesday, but not my typical workout. And every Wednesday, we're learning about how the industry is changing and how we need to really elevate our game to understand. And like in the back, it says B2B is really P2P, right? So that's person to person, right?
Yes.
And so if you're doing B2B, you're just moving boxes, right? You're just saying, this is your volume, these are your features. It's reactive as opposed to proactive.
Right.
That's not a relationship. That's not P2P. That's B2B.
Right. And I think that's what becomes sustainable. So one of these companies I work for sells insurance, and they're an independent agency. And one of the things I love about the insurance business is they go to market kind of the way that you do, and that it is fiercely personal, right? Did you ever have a sales trainer that said, hey, don't take it, rejection's not personal, don't take it personally? Come on, bullshit. It's fiercely personal, man. I am what I'm selling. I'm not, my product has nothing to do with it.
Exactly.
It's very personal. But in insurance, what I love is that when these folks go to market, this guy said to me something that was so intense, this owner of this company. He said to me, we were talking about selling their product, and he said, Frank, who are they going to call on their worst day? And boy, wasn't that an intense statement of relationship. Who are they going to call in the worst? Your house burns down. You want an 800 number? You want some point and click that you bought your insurance? Or do you want to call Dayna, your agent, and go, what do I do?
Right.
She says, I'll be right over.
Right.
That's what you want. And that's what you bring your clients. And people don't
And that's what,
understand that level of service.
right.
It's not, I send an email check-in twice a year. It's a different level. And that's what makes you great.
Or only following up when the contract's coming up. So we have what's called TBRs, which is Technology Business Review. And I don't care if my client has one copy or if they have document management, IT, managed print services, every single thing. It doesn't matter who it is. I am requesting a technology business review because guess what? I might think we're doing a phenomenal job. They might be unhappy with invoicing. Their business may have changed. They might have had turnover. Someone doesn't know how to use the equipment. They might be thinking that they're struggling in an area where they didn't realize we can support. And then we have something that is called it's an internal document, so I shouldn't even say what it's called, but we go over this with all of our clients to have a better understanding. Needs change, and they change fast now, so quick. So if you're just touching base, are you okay? I'm following up. How is everything? That's ridiculous. It's quarterly meetings with every single one of my clients.
How do you manage that time-wise? My God, you got to look like a superwoman.
Like I said, my assistant is my better half, but my husband shouldn't hear that. But she is my better half, right?
Okay.
She does my proposal. She does all my internal, so I can do my external, so I can build relationships, so I could do my fundraising, so I could do my networking. I am so blessed, right? I also can call the president, vice president, like Adam Weiss. Yesterday we were on a call before even 9 a.m.
Yeah.
Joe Cola, my VP of service, call him directly, nights, weekends, going over strategies with a client.
Yeah.
If I tell you, I got a picture last week, never to name the client, never to name the industry. Constant technician going back. We didn't understand why. We did not know that when we were coming to service them, they changed the ream of paper because they didn't want us to know that they were using paper that was shredded, curled, and ripped in half. They didn't know my technician was coming to just do a stop by. They were trying to make it seem like it was the machine. So we just did a casual stop by, not a regular planned service call. He pulled out reams of paper and sent me pictures. Now, if we didn't just do proactive and we were just reactive, I have the support, like you said, and this is not something that makes me comfortable, but me personally, I do more in partnerships than some companies do. It's because of my team behind me.
Oh, you do work for a great company.
It's not just me. It's the admins, it's the service, it's my assistant, it's my whole team. I couldn't do it without them.
You know, what's really interesting too is the company that you work for, right? I admire Larry, the president of your company. He's always amazed me. And he was the first person that said yes to be interviewed for that book on the wall. And when you boil it down, when I go out to give a speech and I interviewed 4 people for my book, and one of them is Larry Weiss. I tell a little bit about his story, which I expand on the book. But what Larry said to me, when you boil it down, I said, what does it take to be great in sales and in business? And he said, you got to have a great attitude and a great work ethic. And I said, well,
and one second, I have to show you one thing. I have to grab a book. Hold on. 2 weeks ago, Larry gave me this book. It's called Greatness. You can't see it. Frank, it's by David Cook, who is a PhD. Okay. The book is $100. It is $100 because he wants only people who are going to truly invest in their greatness. Wow. Now, it says, This is your personal invitation to greatness, to discover the true extent of your talents, to reclaim your dreams and extend them, to leave a legacy as a game changer, a world changer, to become fearless in the face of uncertainty, adversity, and change. You have been told that success is the ultimate goal. You have been sold short. Greatness is the space beyond success, the place of your true calling. Welcome to the final frontier in your quest to reach the summit of your dreams. If you do not get this book, you're missing out. It is called Greatness. I have never taken so many notes since I've graduated college. You have no idea.
It'll be in the show notes.
It's just beyond. And I have a question for you.
Yeah.
I should have invited you, and I know it's last minute notice.
Wow.
I am putting together an unbelievable lunch today in Englewood, New Jersey. Are you around?
I'm not. No, I have family in from the West Coast.
No
For
problem.
the rest of this week, but
Then
I went
that's
to one. We went to one together
Next one.
during COVID. But next one, yeah, let me know, and I'd love to be there. Going back to what Larry said, and what you just read from David Cook. What's so interesting is what Larry boiled it down to. And you think about what that guy's accomplished. You have to have a great attitude and a great work ethic. And I said to him, well, what else? Give me some. He's like, Frank, you got to have a great attitude and a great work ethic. And when you think about it, really, like, what's more important than that? You could throw in persistence, but that kind of works in work ethic. You could throw in asking great questions, but that kind of works in your attitude part. I mean, he really nailed it for me. And I think for all of the folks one of the purposes of this podcast is to say to people who maybe are just starting out and looking for answers from people that have done it as well as you have, is to say, you have everything inside you need. There isn't anything else that you weren't, Dayna wasn't born with more than you have. You have it. It's just, how do we tap it? And it's about attitude and work ethic. I mean, more than once, you're talking about 3 and 4 a.m. I ran 5 miles and was back in my house at 7:15 to get showered and ready and do my notes for I'm a morning person, I mean, I'm not saying that
And
people
Frank,
that do it at midnight aren't doing the right thing necessarily, but my biorhythms say, get up early, work your butt off, and then I tap out in the late afternoon.
But you mentioned that you're 60. There are some people in their 20s that aren't even as determined as someone in their 60s to now, okay, they're finding themselves in their 20s. That wasn't a good example. 30s, 40s, that you're so determined, you know your goals. But if you call me at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm fried. My assistant knows. Prioritize. And everything that must get done in today is done before 12 noon. Because by 2 or 3, I'm like, woo, checking out. But one of the things that you said is really important. Like, you really talk about greatness and an attitude and work ethics. But you must know your why.
Yes.
Because if you don't know your why, then the who, how, none of that matters. You must listen to the motivational speech. What's your why? And it's like, when you get up every morning, what's your why?
Is that Simon Sinek?
Mine is in her bedroom sleeping right now at 9:27. How am I going to show up for my only child? She just came out. I must have woken her. And she has her yoga mat. I'm on a podcast. She just threw me a kiss. But that's my why.
Yeah.
What do I want to teach her?
Right.
Why is she going for her master's in social work? I hope I had a lot to do with that. I hope all my fundraising and her growing up and knowing, pay it forward. Pay it forward.
Dayna, you're going to hate this. Take the credit for her going for her master's as part of her upbringing. because if it all went sideways, you get the blame.
Well, Frank, you have two girls, and now
Right?
your grandchildren, you have all boys, right?
No, two boys and a girl.
Okay. So, how much easier are your grandsons than your granddaughter?
It's hard to say. As they get older, here's what I think happens. When they're really young, and this is so sexist of me, but my observation within my own family is that when they're really young, the boys are going 100 miles an hour,
Oh,
falling
yeah.
down, bumping into trees, knocking out teeth, fighting with each other, loud, raucous, and my granddaughter, as athletic as she is and as capable as she is capable of sitting one on one and playing a card game with me. As they get older, then I think the difficulty may lie on the other side a little
The
bit.
sassiness, the
Yeah,
attitude, I know it all. You can't tell
yeah.
me anything. I'm embarrassed by you. Oh, please.
Well, it's an opposite sex thing too. Daughters tend to be easier on their dads than on their
Oh
moms.
my God. We have a joke in my house. If my husband was running me over with a car, she'd make sure he has enough gas. Daddy, do you have enough gas? Because you
Oh,
want to go forward and then backward. Just make sure you fully filled up in your tank.
oh my God, that's terrible and wonderful at the same time. Oh my God, that's beautiful.
No, my husband, but you have to understand. And I say to Randy, you think that daddy is the one to call because he doesn't like ask a million questions and so emotional. It's because he's not listening.
No, that's awesome.
I'm being serious. They always say the best one to tell a secret to is your husband because he's not listening.
That's great. That's great. It's really interesting because we all go through this, and you've been married a long time, I've been married a long time. But listening in our professional lives is the crux of it. I think the last thing I want to touch on with the whole idea of technology is, people are using the technology to send the emails. They're doing it unedited. They're taking that text and it shows, and it's not cool. But the real crux of what you do well is you ask a lot of questions and listen, and then you act on that information. Some people are not very good at acting on the information, but that's a big deal, is being able to listen really well.
So, how many people in your coaching do you know that are listening to understand versus listening to respond? And it's not even that they are listening because they're just waiting to talk. They're thinking and they heard one thing and the person's still talking, but they're focused on the first thing and they're just waiting to respond. They're not listening to understand. They're not listening to solve. They're listening just to talk.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, a lot of young people and professional young people believe that something that they say is going to make the difference. That old model, silver-tongued sales devil that convinced people because they were just the Pied Piper. And that's not it. The way, if you want to bring people over to your side, it's not about what you say, it's about what you listen. Listen really well. Feel what they're feeling. As Dayna Karron, the Solutionist, tells you, it's about solving issues for people. And when you do that, great things come to you as well. The more you give, the more you get. And you're great evidence of that.
There's a book called Giver's Gain. The other thing that I wanted to ask you is, are you familiar with Mel Robbins?
Sure.
A lot of people haven't really, Brene Brown, Mel Robbins, and now, I'm trying to work, especially with my daughter living home now for 2 days, the whole concept of let them, right? We always think that when someone does something, the way it affects us, the way it reflects upon us, how it's the way that they're treating us. And the let them theory is just so incredible because it gives you this freedom. not just in business, but in every area of your life. Let them and let me, right? And I think that has a lot to do with listening, because if you let someone just be who they are, let them,
Right.
instead of needing to try to fix things, instead of needing to cut them off, instead of needing to calm them down, just let them. And I think that it was interesting. I've never listened to a Audible before because I thought I couldn't because of my hearing.
Right.
I put on the Bose noise reducing headset.
Yeah.
And I was so into this book that when I would forget the book home, I'd put on my headset and listen. So I was going back and forth between reading it and listening. But Frank, when I was listening, it was like she was talking to me.
You're talking about Mel or Brene Brown?
Mel, I'm sorry, Mel Robbins, the book, the book, it was incredible.
She's amazing. She's absolutely amazing.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and always has been. And Brene Brown has some wonderful tactical information. I mean, I look at her stuff and some of it is so practical, the way that she walks it down. It's just, I love them both.
Yeah,
And
me too.
what's, I got to say, as we got to wrap up, but I don't want to take your whole day. As we wrap up, the points that I really hope, if you're young and listening to this and you're listening to the best solutionist I have ever seen in my life, there's just no one that compares with you, Dayna, and what you've been able to achieve in your industry. And I know that because I'm in that business and I know it. And what I want you to hear, if you're listening to this, is Dayna wants to listen to people. Dayna says, give me an Excel spreadsheet of all your vendors and I'm going to make them all contributors and partners to your nonprofit. Dayna has an assistant that helps her to get done what she has to get done. So she's not trying to do it all herself. Dayna starts early and she's hard charging. Dayna gives back to charities. And Dayna is looking for reasons to improve. She's reading Brene Brown. She's reading Mel Robbins. She's reading David Cook, Greatness. She's constantly looking to find more information. She's not settled and thinking that she has it all done. And I think that's the formula for success and greatness. God bless you. It's fantastic.
Thank you, Frank, so much. This was amazing, especially because we've known each other for so long and we've watched each other over the years grow and evolve. And just knowing that our industry has changed so much and we need to grow with it, well, we're going to be left behind in the dust.
Right. Well, thanks so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. I'm going to stop the recording right here.
Ready to take your sales team or event to the next level? Visit franksomma.com to discover how Frank can coach your top performers, deliver a tailored workshop for your team, or captivate your audience with a content-packed keynote at your next event. Frank's best-selling book, B2B is really P2P, is now available on Amazon and Frank's website. Here's a special offer. As a valued listener, mention this podcast when you contact Frank and receive a 10% discount on your first coaching session, keynote, or workshop booking.
That's a wrap. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of Selling in the Age of AI. Be sure to check out the show notes for links to all of the topics we discussed, and of course, to connect with our amazing guests. I have to shout out big love to my production team, Neeks, Angelo, Nico of Digital Presence. You guys rock. If you want your digital presence to explode, check these guys out at digitalpresence.team. And until next time, remember, people can't point and click you. Be the difference maker for your prospects and clients.